kind of can't believe I'm doing this right now, just randomly going live without a plan. But here we are. I already did one really brave thing this morning, which is going to a networking event. Um, I've never done anything like that before, and it was a little bit terrifying. But a friend had told me about this group, and they were really nice. And I brought my little 20 Ways to Neuroqueer Friendship zines that I made. I made them very simple, just one page, my link to my website on it. And I told people about what I do. Um, and it was a little bit nerve-wracking, but I did it. Um, and I told them not only about the work that I already do, but I also talked to them about my group coaching on friendship that I'm launching. And there were some really interesting questions, and I thought I would share some of my answers here because this might be interesting to some of you as well, how I'm thinking about it. And so on the way home, I was both listening to a podcast and like thinking about exactly these things. Like there's 3 points that I wanted to remember. And so I'm going to try and capture these 3 things here. It might be a little bit messy, but that's okay. Um, a little bit unpolished. Yeah, I feel like that's good. Um, the other thing is, I think part of the reason I'm doing this is because what I really should be doing is finally adding all of the information about this group coaching that I keep talking about onto my website, which is my top priority for this week. Um, but I don't want to do it. So this is also me procrastinating. So which one do I start with? It doesn't matter so much, but they are kind of all connected a little bit, like these 3 points. So one person said, well, there's another, like she's been to masterminds before and they were really fun and they might be interesting and you learn a lot from other people. But then she was sharing how it can be kind of nerve-wracking to be in a big group and you don't know kind of when is your time to speak and how do you budge in and when do you take up space and then what if it's your turn and like it's your topic and all of a sudden like you're on the screen and everybody else is watching you and there you are in the hot seat and oh my gosh, like how do you navigate that? And um yeah, she was kind of describing her experience like that. It was really nice because I've actually thought about a lot of these things when I think about it. So we are going to do, I'm not going to call them hot seat coaching because I find that's a little like intense, but spotlight coaching. So the spotlight will be on one person and everybody else will kind of listen in. Um, but we're not going to do that in our first session. We're going to do that in the third session because the first session is actually all about relationship building. So we are absolutely going to start talking about friendship, and we're going to start with the reality of what does your current reality look like, what's going well in your friendships, what isn't going well, what are you hoping to get from this, kind of just sharing and hearing each other where we are right in this moment. Um, but also doing it in a way that connects people with each other. So it's not just us kind of sharing anonymously to other people, but there'll be little exercises and activities that we'll do to get to know each other a little bit. And they're not going to be like, please tell me a little bit about yourself, because that's like, no, that's too big and that's intimidating and such. So it'll still probably be a little bit nervous on the first day during the first session, and it'll be a little awkward, and that's okay. And we will all feel awkward, not awkward maybe, but nervous. Maybe I know I will feel nervous, and that's okay. Um, but we're gonna navigate that together, and then in the second session too, we'll start to look at, well, where do you want to go? What's in the way between where you are today and where you would like to be? Kind of starting to paint that picture a little bit bigger. Um, but again, nobody's going to be put on a spot until the third session when hopefully we've gotten to know each other a little bit and there's a relationship there and we will have heard from everybody and everybody got to contribute. Um, and so, yeah. Um, yeah, and then including the questions of, well, how do I jump in? When is it my turn to talk and such? We will navigate that as a group. I will have some guidelines, but also the purpose of this whole thing is that we will be talking about friendship, which is one type of relationship, right? So we will be talking about relationships while also creating relationships. So that's kind of not the whole point, but that's one of the interesting pieces about it to me is to navigate that together, but to call it out and name it. I referred to this a long time ago as like meta in the moment, um, where we might we might bring that up and be like, is anybody else not really sure like how to raise the hand or what to do or how to join into the conversation and how do we create that container together um, so that everybody can find the courage to participate. Um, yeah, so that's kind of the one. The other thing that somebody said is then, well, do you have an agenda for every time, for every session? Is there like, do you know ahead of time what you're going to do? And I I said yes and no. So as you just heard a little bit, I do have a rough idea of a structure of where we're going to go. However, the beauty of coaching to me, like where the magic happens, is when we don't know exactly what's going to happen because it depends on the topic that people bring, the energy that people bring, the feelings that people bring, and then in a group, that all the dynamic that happens in within a group. And I can't know that up front. And that's one of the things that I find intimidating, but I also find so thrilling. Like I love this idea that we will manage it as we go. And when I say we, that's my job is to see what's happening, to notice what's happening, and to help the group direct it to where the group wants to go. But there is going to be a lot of unknown. And that's maybe a little intimidating, but it's also so exciting. Like I love when when there's when there's a little bit of structure and the order is there, but um there's also a little bit of chaos and it'll be up to us to figure out what we're doing with that chaos and navigating that. So yes, there will be exercises in the beginning, check-ins, ways to make everybody comfortable. Um, I'm seeing who's joined. I haven't even said hi. I'm just doing this monologue. Hi, and Christina, I just saw your name pop up. I listened to the podcast you recommended on the way home, and I'll get to in just a second too. Um, so yeah, order and chaos. You already heard me say it. Um, so is there an agenda for each of the sessions? There will be a rough structure. Um, that makes sure everybody kind of comes in, feels grounded, feels present. We connect to each other, we see what's going on, and then there's an open space where we just really see what happens depending on what people bring. And then I have activities planned from creative um, activities, whether that's journaling or like a mini art project. Um, we'll do visualizations. Um, and things like that kind of to structure it. And there will be time in the end for us to, I like to say, bubble back to the surface and each come back to ourselves and come back out of the session back into the real world. And so there is that structure, but in terms of the content and what's actually happening, that's what makes it so special. Um, that's what makes it so, oh, comments are distracting. I love the comment, but My brain. Um, um, it is what makes it special when we don't know exactly what's going to happen, and that makes it different from a workshop, where a workshop is you're a passive participant. Yes, you might have your pen and paper and take some notes and journal, and maybe you're doing some things, activities kind of on your own, but this group coaching is really gonna be an interactive space where participation is what makes it the thing, and I cannot control that upfront, and I wouldn't want to, and so that's like, yeah, kind of that beautiful, magical space where I won't know exactly what's going to happen. Um, and so I've been thinking about courage, like, it requires then everybody to bring curiosity and courage, and, including myself, and that's what I'm going to bring. But yeah, it requires that from everybody else as well. Um, okay, and then putting it together to this is like the third point then, the podcast, Simon Sinek and I now forgot his name. Um, they were talking about creativity and, um, well, they were talking about a lot of things, but kind of towards the end, they talked about what is creativity and that it's, um, this play between order and chaos. That that it's when you're in the chaos, finding the order and making sense of it and finding order in the chaos to create something. And then when there's too much order and it feels restricting, it feels boring, to then take that order and mess with it and create some chaos within that order, and all of that happening like within a container. And that really resonated with me as I'm thinking about, yes, coaching in general and this group coaching more specifically, because it really is that's that element that we're talking about. And I know I've talked about this before. Rachel Connor and I have talked about this, and we're going to speak again next, no, this week, about the idea that coaching is creative, and that is so much, that is part of it, is is there is a structure and you're putting it into a framework and you're creating that structure together and you're creating the container together. And then within that, there is chaos, but like the good kind of chaos and the fun. And sometimes people will bring their own chaos. And then it's all about untangling things and creating some sort of order from all that chaos. And so, yeah, that really resonated with me. And so I wanted to share that. That's how I think about it as I think about this group coaching experience, is that yes, it requires courage and curiosity, but it's really going to be this dance between chaos and order. And I think that's where the magic happens. Okay. Um, I think that's all I wanted to share. Thank you all for being here, for those of you who joined and popped in to say hi. Um, Yeah, now I should go and actually do the things that are on my to-do list and type all of this into my website so it's actually there for everyone to see. But thank you for joining me. And yeah, awkward goodbye. The ending is always the hardest part. So okay. Bye everybody.